My wife said our daughter needed her real father, so I left for Japan. Then, everything collapsed. I, 34 male, am sitting in a high-rise apartment in Minato City, Tokyo, looking out at the skyline and wondering how the hell my life shifted so fast. 6 months ago, I was a suburban dad in the States, worried about lawn maintenance and middle school applications. Now, I'm the absentee monster in my ex-wife's narrative, but if you ask my bank account or my conscience, I've never been more present. Let's get one thing straight. I loved that little girl, 9F, from the second I held her. She was barely walking when I met her mother, 32F. The biological father was a guy who'd checked out before the pregnancy test even dried. I didn't care. I stepped up. I did the midnight feedings, the scraped knees, the parent-teacher conferences. I was dad in every sense that matters. Or so I thought. The shift started small. My wife became obsessed with ancestry and heritage. It seemed harmless until she reconnected with her ex through social media. He had suddenly changed. He was sober. He was finding his purpose. I watched the messages on her phone, not because I'm a snoop, but because she stopped hiding them. She wanted me to see. She wanted to test the leash. The explosion happened on a Tuesday in early December. We were supposed to be planning our Christmas dinner. Instead, she dropped a bomb. She told me she had booked a cabin for the week of Christmas, just her, our daughter, and the ex. I was stunned. I asked her what she was talking about. I asked if she was out of her mind. She looked at me with this chilling, blank entitlement. She said, "He's your real father. He's missed so much, and she needs to know her roots. It's not about you. It's about her identity." I told her it was absolutely about me. I'd been the one there for 8 years while he was off doing whatever losers do. I told her I wasn't going to sit at home alone while she played happy family with a deadbeat. She laughed. It wasn't even a mean laugh. It was a dismissive one. "If you don't like it, you know where the door is. Divorce me, but you aren't going to stop her from being with her real family." That was the moment, the real family comment. 8 years of my life, my sweat, and my money dismissed because of a DNA strand from a guy who couldn't even hold down a job at a car wash. I didn't argue. I had spent years turning down a massive promotion at my tech firm, a director role in Tokyo. I'd stayed because I didn't want to uproot the kid. I went into the bedroom, opened my laptop, and emailed my VP. "Is the Tokyo spot still open? I can be there by the 22nd. 10 minutes later, I had the green light. I spent the next week being a ghost. I didn't fight with her. I didn't even bring it up. She took my silence for submission. She thought she had broken me. She spent the week packing her bags for the cabin, humming to herself, acting like she was going on a honeymoon. The house we lived in was mine. My grandfather had left it to me in a specific family trust years before I even met her. I'd never put her name on the deed, mostly because my lawyer uncle had warned me never to mingle inherited assets with marital ones. It was the smartest thing I ever did. On December 20th, the ex pulled into our driveway in a beat-up truck that looked like it barely passed inspection. My wife was all smiles. She loaded the suitcases while our daughter looked at me with these big, confused eyes. "Why aren't you coming, Dad?" she asked. Before I could answer, my wife snapped, "He's busy with work, sweetie. Let's go see your real daddy." I knelt down and hugged her. I whispered, "I love you. I am always going to be your dad. Remember that." As soon as that truck cleared the driveway, I went into overdrive. I had already sold my SUV to a local dealer who picked it up an hour later. I had a moving crew scheduled for the essentials, my personal items, my heirlooms, my clothes. Everything else, it stayed. I didn't want the hassle. I called a property management company. I told them I was moving abroad and wanted the house listed for rent or sale immediately. I changed the locks that afternoon. I put a digital keypad on the door and set a code only I knew. I went to the bank and closed our joint household account. I moved every cent of my personal savings into a new account she couldn't touch. I left exactly enough in the joint account to cover the utility bills for 2 weeks. I landed in Tokyo on the 22nd. The jet lag was brutal, but the clarity was amazing. I got a local SIM, blocked her number, and only kept my email open for my lawyer. The first 3 days were silent. Then the 26th hit. Apparently, the cabin wasn't a winter wonderland. It was a drafty shack with no heat, and the real father had spent the whole time trying to borrow money from my wife. He'd brought his girlfriend along too, which my wife conveniently forgot to mention to me. The reconnection was a disaster. My daughter was miserable, cold, and wanted to go home. When they got back to the house on the 27th, they couldn't get in. The key didn't work. The garage door opener had been deprogrammed. My emails started hitting my inbox like machine gun fire. Why is the house locked? Why isn't my code working? Open the door right now. We're freezing. I waited an hour. I wanted her to feel the weight of the situation. Then I replied, "The house is currently being staged for sale. You were told to leave if you didn't like your Christmas plans. I didn't like them. I live in Japan now. Your things are in a storage unit in the city. The first month is paid for. Here is the key code to the unit. Don't contact me again unless it's through my attorney." The entitlement that followed was breathtaking. She didn't apologize. She didn't say she messed up. She sent a 2,000-word manifesto about how I was violating her rights and how a father doesn't just abandon his post. She actually tried to call the police to report a break-in to her own home. The police arrived. She showed her ID with the address, but I had already emailed the property management company the deed and the trust documents. When the cops called me, I explained the situation. She's a guest who was told to vacate. It's my private property, held in a trust. We're getting divorced. She has no lease. The police told her it was a civil matter, and she had to leave. She had to go crawl to her mother's house, a tiny 2-bedroom apartment that already smelled like cat litter and regret. Then the legal battle started. This is where her entitlement really went off the rails. She hired a lawyer who must have graduated at the bottom of his class because they tried to sue me for spousal maintenance and child support immediately. In the first hearing, done over Zoom because of the distance, her lawyer argued that because I had provided for the child for 8 years, I had established a financial parentage and was obligated to maintain her standard of living. He wanted $4,000 a month in support and for me to pay for my wife's new apartment. My lawyer, a guy who looks like a friendly grandpa but has the soul of a piranha, just smiled. "Your Honor, the petitioner, the mother, explicitly stated, and we have the texts to prove it, that my client is not the real father. She removed the child from the family home specifically to pursue a relationship with the biological father. She told my client to divorce her if he didn't like it. He took her advice."
Dropped the hammer. He showed the court the bank statements. My wife had been funneling money from our joint account to her ex for months before the Christmas trip. She'd been funding his recovery. She'd used my hard-earned money to buy the guy a new iPhone and pay his back rent. The judge looked at my wife. "Ma'am, you cannot tell a man he has no parental rights when it suits your romantic life and then claim he has parental obligations when it suits your checkbook." But I wasn't trying to hurt my daughter. That was the one thing my wife didn't understand. She thought I was being petty by cutting off the money. I told the judge, "I want to support my daughter, but I will not give a single cent to a woman who uses it to fund her lover while telling my child I'm not her family. I have established a 529 college savings plan and a restricted trust for the child. It is fully funded for her future. I will pay for her health insurance and her school tuition directly to the providers, but my ex-wife will not see a penny of my income." The judge agreed. Since I wasn't the biological father and hadn't legally adopted her, my wife had blocked it years ago, saying it wasn't necessary, I didn't have a legal mandate for child support in our state once she denied my parentage. However, because I wanted to be involved, the judge granted me de facto status for visitation but limited my financial liability to the trust I'd already set up. My wife lost it. She started screaming at the laptop screen. "He's a millionaire. He's living in a penthouse in Tokyo while we're eating ramen. How is this justice?" The judge muted her. It was the most satisfying thing I've ever seen. The next few months were a series of dirty tricks from her side. She tried to tell the school I was a kidnapper so they wouldn't let me talk to my daughter on Zoom. I had to send the court order to the principal. She tried to tell my daughter that I stole their house and left them to be homeless. I waited for my moment. I knew the truth would come out, because people like my ex can't help but trip over their own lies. The real father lasted about 3 weeks into the new year. Once he realized my wife was broke and living with her mother, he stopped answering her calls. He didn't want a reconnection. He wanted a meal ticket. When he realized the ticket was canceled, he went back to his girlfriend and his old habits. My daughter started seeing the cracks. She's a smart kid. She realized that Dad, me, was still the one paying for her iPad data, her school clothes, and her medical bills, while real Daddy hadn't even sent a birthday card. In April, I flew back for the finalization of the property division. The house had sold for a significant profit. Because it was an inherited asset, the proceeds were 100% mine. I walked into the lawyer's office to sign the final papers, and my wife was there, looking exhausted. She had aged 5 years in 4 months. "Just give me $20,000, she whispered when the lawyers were out of the room. "For the move. I can't afford a deposit on a decent place. My mom is driving me crazy." I looked at her. I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt nothing. "You told me to leave. You told me I didn't need you. You told me your real family was waiting. Go ask them for the deposit." "You're so cold," she said, her voice trembling. "I made one mistake. I wanted her to know her father." "No," I corrected her. "You wanted to keep my life and my money while having your ex on the side. You got greedy. You thought I was too weak to walk away because I loved the kid. You gambled with your daughter's stability to satisfy your own ego. That's not a mistake. That's who you are." The final blow was the courtroom twist my lawyer had been sitting on. My wife had filed an affidavit claiming she had no liquid assets and was destitute to try and get a bigger chunk of the marital communal property, the furniture, the small joint savings. My lawyer stood up and handed a folder to the judge. "Your Honor, we have evidence that the petitioner has been hiding an inheritance of her own. Her aunt passed away last year and left her a $60,000 life insurance payout. She moved it to her mother's account 3 days before filing for divorce." The judge's face went purple. Perjury is a quick way to lose a judge's sympathy. Not only did my wife get nothing from the communal pot, but the judge ordered her to pay my legal fees out of that $60,000. When the hearing was over, I saw my daughter in the lobby. My ex-mother-in-law was huffing and puffing, but the girl ran to me. She looked at me and said, "Mom said you were never coming back. She said you were mad at me because I wanted to see my other dad." I sat on the floor so I was eye level with her. "I was never mad at you. Never. Not for 1 second. I moved because I had to, but I've been right here." I tapped my phone. "I'm always a call away. And this summer, you're coming to see Tokyo. We're going to the Pokemon Center, the Ghibli Museum, the works." She hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. "I knew you didn't leave me," she said. I looked up and saw my wife standing by the elevators. She was watching her daughter choose the fake father over the real mother's lies. She looked like she wanted to scream, but she knew if she did, the bailiffs would take her down. She had lost her house, her husband, her lover, and most importantly, her control. I'm back in Japan now. The house is sold, the money is invested, and my career is exploding. I get to be the dad I always was, but without the weight of a woman who didn't value me. Every night when I see my daughter's face on the screen, she tells me about her day. She tells me she's saving her allowance for Japan. She doesn't mention the real father anymore. Apparently, he's back in jail for a parole violation. My ex-wife still sends the occasional email. They've moved from angry to pathetic. She's lonely. She misses our talks. She thinks we should try for the sake of the family.
I don't even delete them anymore. I just let them sit there in the spam folder, right where they belong. Life is funny. You think you're the one being tested, but really, you're the one doing the grading. She failed, I passed. And my daughter? She's going to have a hell of a summer in Tokyo. I guess the real father isn't the guy who provided the DNA, it's the guy who provided the life, and I'm doing just fine. If you ever find yourself being told you're replaceable, just remember that the person saying it usually projects their own worthlessness. Subscribe if you want to know if my ex tries to crash the Tokyo trip. I've already got the restraining order paperwork ready just in case.